The holiday period sure can get expensive, and the cold, dark period, which comes afterwards, sure can be drab. Fortunately, you can brighten things up without breaking the bank by taking advantage of one of this month's splendid new deals over at the Microsoft Store.
With its slick, neon-tinted visuals, lush sci-fi setting, and explosive twin-stick action, it's easy to see why our Charleyy nominated the Ascent as her personal game of the year. Taking place in a far-flung future where shady corporations have taken total control of the planet, the Ascent sees you battling your way up through the levels of this dystopian cyberpunk world, from the grungy depths of the gutters to the glittering penthouses up top. Although running at 4K 60fps on the Xbox Series X, even the grimiest parts of it still look kind of incredible. And the advantage of living in a technologically advanced, morally bankrupt world is that you can upgrade your character with all sorts of fun cybernetic enhancements, which is good because in pretty much every other way it's a seriously less than ideal place to be. The Ascent is now 40% off, and it was also one of the many awesome titles to hit Xbox Game Pass on day one last year, so members can download it without spending an extra penny. Clever.
A Plague Tale: Innocence got a lovely next-gen upgrade in 2021, allowing Xbox Series X and S owners to witness all the action in smooth 60fps. And in a nerve-wracking survival game like this, you're going to want all the frames you can get. Amicia really has it all stacked against her. While the Black Plague runs rampant through her country, the 100 Years' War rages on, and the forces of the French Inquisition cause all sorts of mayhem, Amicia is left alone to look after her sickly little brother, who may or may not have magical blood, which is a lot for a 15-year-old to deal with. If you want to give her a hand, A Plague Tale: Innocence is now available for 75% off. You'll also find it on Xbox Game Pass, which is exactly where the upcoming sequel, Requiem, will be landing on release day as well. For more updates on it and all the other great titles heading Game Pass's way, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell.
The 14th century was no picnic, but the 21st can be pretty taxing as well, especially if you're trying to deliver precious cargo across some of the planet's most challenging terrain in the middle of a snowstorm, which is exactly what you'll be doing in Snowrunner, now 50% off and also available on Xbox Game Pass. And that's just the beginning, really. This off-road simulation will have you hauling stuff through all sorts of literal disaster zones, crawling your way through the destruction left in the wake of floods, earthquakes, and burst pipelines. If you're used to gliding along the Mexican plains in one of Forza Horizon 5's glimmering supercars, it's gonna feel like quite the change of pace. But if you manage to shift gears successfully and learn how to drive through the odd rough patch, you'll soon be making deliveries with efficiency and ease. Like Postman Pat, but with a whole lot more horsepower.
Since we've all had our noses buried in the book of Boba Fett lately, now is a great time to hop into the cockpit and enjoy some Star Warfare with EA's exhilarating dogfight game, Star Wars Squadrons. Whether you fell in love with the galaxy far, far away watching Luke in his X-Wing, or find yourself drawn to the dark side's TIE fighters, Squadrons gives you the keys to a full range of iconic Star Wars vehicles. And running in 4K and up to an eye-melting 120fps, these starships have never looked better than they do on the Xbox Series X and S. Star Wars Squadrons is one of the many titles available to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members thanks to the lovely little EA Play subscription that they have thrown into the bargain. But to spread the wealth around, everyone can pick it up this week for a massive 75% off.
If you are a fan of the minimalist storytelling, brooding visuals, and tactile platforming of Limbo, then Stela might be the game for you. If you are also a fan of the constant sense of panic and dread which it inspired, then even better. Stela's story is as stripped back as they come. You play as a woman dressed in white, wandering through a strange, dilapidated world. With no dialogue of any kind, it's a real, no plot, just vibes affair, but said vibes are pretty hypnotizing, thanks to the game's striking art design. In its best moments, Stela makes you feel like you're running and jumping through a beautiful painting. Emphasis on the running though, because Stela's world is full of terrors, from packs of skittering beetles to looming slender man-like monsters and a whole host of natural hazards. But if you're willing to take a wander somewhere a little bit different and a little bit dangerous, Stela is now 65% off.
Anyone who grew up on games like Spyro the Dragon or Banjo-Kazooie should definitely check out A Hat in Time, which is now half price. Hat Girl is lolling around in her cushiony spaceship when a disgruntled gangster takes offense and smashes up all her windows, sending her magic hourglasses tumbling to the world below and forcing her to adventure out and recover them. In the grand tradition of cartoon platformers, the basic premise makes absolutely no sense at all. This is a genre pioneered by amorous plumbers and really fast hedgehogs after all. But just like those classic titles, you'll be having way too much fun to care. A Hat in Time's world is vibrant, colourful, and overflowing with wacky personality. Traveling through it, you'll be able to unlock all kinds of nifty powers by crafting new hats, and you'll meet all kinds of quirky characters, like the criminally inclined denizens of Mafia Town, an Elvis impersonating penguin, or your nefarious nemesis, Mustache Girl.
Might just be me, but have you ever wondered how much more formidable Harry Potter would have been if he was packing heat? No, of course you haven't, you're not a psychopath, but the people who designed Trigger Witch have, and they've even built an entire wizarding world where boiling cauldrons and hot lead go hand in hand. Colette is a promising student at the School for Witchcraft and Triggery when the arrival of a mysterious man into her realm threatens to turn everything upside down. Fortunately, Colette has the strength of character, magical know-how, and copious amount of ammunition required to set things right. Trigger Witch is a 16-bit action-adventure game which calls back to another era in gaming by also putting its own unmissable witchy spin on things. Well worth checking out for its uniqueness alone, and now 35% off.
Fury Unleashed is another title which draws inspiration from brutal retro shooters like Metal Slug. Blasting your way across the pages of a gorgeous living comic book, you'll go toe-to-toe with skeletons, robots, carnivorous flowers, and a whole mess of other stuff, all of which you can reduce to an ashy smudge on the page using your own copious amounts of firepower. Playing alone or in co-op, Fury Unleashed is a frantically paced action game that's sure to put even the quickest trigger finger to the test. The goal is to chain together as many kills as possible to create a combo, building up your rage until you're ready to unleash the fury and devastate everything left on the page. So if you're looking for a fun new anger management tool, Fury Unleashed is the perfect place to blow off some steam. And it's now 65% off too.
But if you prefer a game where people are yelling in joy rather than fury, ScreamRide could be the way to go, especially now that it's down to just a quarter of the sticker price. This physics-based rollercoaster game provides you with rail-based fun in 3 distinctive flavors. Engineer mode is one for the puzzle solvers out there, as you're tasked with building the best rides possible with limited resources. On the other hand, ScreamRider is an adrenaline junkie's best friend, putting you in direct control of the carriage as you tilt and turn in an attempt to stop any of your passengers from being flung out of the ride. Apparently that can tend to damage your park's reputation a bit when that happens. But if you crave destruction and have a mysterious third hand, then demolition mode is where it's at, actively encouraging you to fling your riders around with total abandon, ideally in the direction of the nearest unstable building or oddly placed explosives to rack up an even higher score. Might want to lawyer up for that one. Anyway, whether you're trying to create marvels of engineering or straight up death traps, you'll want to get in line for ScreamRide.
Mutazione revolves around a city that was struck by a meteor, turning it into a lush, overgrown world full of mutated plants and people. But you aren't being sent there to do battle with its strange creatures or set off on some epic world-saving quest, just to shoot the breeze with the folks who live there and maybe do a little light gardening. While you might call it an adventure game, Mutazione is more of a meander game. The goal isn't to get anywhere particularly fast, but to take your time, soak up the sights and sounds, and chat to everyone you meet. The more you do that, the more the game reveals to, slowly unearthing the hidden lives of everyone in town. No other game really looks, sounds, or feels like Mutazione, and it's worth checking out for that alone, especially at 20% off.
From award-winning titles to offbeat oddities, whatever you're looking to start your year off with, this week's sale has something for everyone. Let us know what the next game on your wishlist is down in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Bye.